Welcome to CIS 264, Fundamentals of Linux Administration for the summer 2014 semester. My name is Rich Elwell, and I will be your facilitator of learning for your journey to competence in the Linux environment. So, let's put this video together quickly to give you basically a brief overview of what we'll be going through. Here are the things I plan on talking about. Welcome, just did that. In case you missed it, welcome. Awesome. We'll look at the syllabus, a quick tour through the D2L shell to make sure you know where everything is. I will talk briefly about the final project we'll be doing, and then have some tips for being successful. So let's start with the syllabus. Here's the syllabus. Right, a bunch of useless nonsense all over the place. We'll go down to the important stuff. What we're going to be doing, we'll have some homework quizzes. They're based mostly on podcasts. I'll talk more about podcasts later. Hands-on exercises. Those are some tasks you will complete at the command line environment to do some given activities. We'll talk about those later. Discussion board postings. Everybody hates discussion board postings. I hate discussion board postings. But that is how I just make sure you're still with us, still doing what needs to be done. Nothing complex about those. Just put some words that convince me to know what you have. Words that convince me that you learned something. Test. We'll have 2 tests and then a final exam. The test may consist of a written portion, which will be a quiz in D2L, and a practical portion, which would be a hands-on activity for you to prove competence with some activities that we've learned about. And we will have a final project. I'll talk more about that in a little while. Here's how the points are distributed. 20% of the points from quizzes, 20% from the hands-on exercises, 10% for the discussion board postings, 30% for tests, and then our final project is 20% of the grade. Grade criteria, 90 to 100 is an A, pretty much standard stuff. Attendance policy, this is a online class, so log in and do your work. Office of Disability Services, if you have special accommodations, they will be able to provide me with details on that. So if you have some sort of disability that allows you to get special considerations, let me know immediately. Don't come back to me at the end of the semester and say, oh yeah, I should have got extra time on the quizzes, because at that point it's too late. If you have something like that, then you need to make sure you let me know at the beginning of the semester. Makeup policy, I'm pretty strict on assignments. If the due date passes and you haven't turned it in, I don't want it. I will say that I'm very flexible if you let me know in advance. So if you are going on vacation or you're sick or whatever, if you let me know before the due date about this situation, then I will very likely give you extra time to complete it. If it is due and you did not turn it in and I have not heard anything from you, and then you try to tell me, oh yeah, I was sick last week. Well, you should let me know last week when you're sick. It's not that complex to send me an email and say, hey, yo, I'm sick. I'm not going to finish my homework this week. So if you want to possibly turn in late work, then you need to tell me your stories before it's due. Like it says here, late work will not be accepted unless arrangements have been made before the due date. So pretty simple. Academic dishonesty, pretty much don't cheat. Things that would be considered cheating would be like sharing work with your friends, you taking the quiz or the test and then looking at the answers if they're available and sharing those with your friends. Sometimes it's easy for me to tell if you're doing that if I have incorrect answers, which every now and then happens unnecessarily, unintentionally. But then when I have people who put the right incorrect answer in when there's no way anybody should have known to put that answer, then that kind of gives away that you're getting answers from somewhere. So if you're going to cheat, make sure you do a really good job of it so you don't get caught. Anyway, lowering grade, kicking out of class, trying to get you kicked out of hack, those are things that we could try to do if we find out you're cheating. Here's the calendar, assignments and course calendar. Essentially, we have weekly learning modules. I say weekly, but each module is available for about 10 days, so there's a little bit of overlap for the modules. So, for example, Module 1 is available 5/19. It's not due till 5/28. Module 2 will be available on 5/26. So if you're like work ahead guy, then you can work ahead. If you're wait till the last minute guy, then you can wait till the last minute. So we have about 10 modules in our final project. The dates are all on here. These first 3 modules The goal of those modules are to make you competent Linux users, navigate the command line environment, use the Linux commands to be able to do things competently. These next 3 modules cover some process-related information about how the system operates with processes, programs, and whatnot. Then we go through some scripting stuff. The scripting stuff is not trivial. You will need help with that. I will provide help with that, but in order to get help, you need to start early and ask for help. If you don't start these scripts until the day they're due, you're probably not going to get them to work. So these first 6 modules, we'll be using a system I have prepared for us. Let's see. We'll be connecting remotely. There's some other podcasts that go into how to connect and whatnot. The system's called cntserve.hack.edu. It's available over the internet. Basically, you'll log in here, and then you will, be able to run commands like, oh, cd, hey, look at that, ls. You can use. We'll be using this system for the first 6 modules to learn the basics of how to be a Linux user. Starting with module 7, we will begin our study of administration of a Linux system, and for that, we will be using your own system, but not your own system at your house. We'll be using a system that you're going to load and install that will run a virtual machine that I will make available to you. Don't worry too much about that right now. Plenty of details about that later, but essentially we'll be using all Hack's equipment for this class other than using your machine to connect to these things to do that. So these modules, these 4 modules go through some tasks that you need to know how to do Linux administration and learn things that we're going to need for the final project. And the final project's the last 2 weeks of class, and I will make you implement some specified services. Basically, it says to be determined, but basically you're going to have to configure a LAMP web app, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. I'll make the PHP code available for you and a bunch of other stuff available. Basically, you just have to deploy it. You have to configure SSL with a real certificate. You have to configure DNS so I can get to your website by domain name. And then you have to do a couple other little things. So that's about it for the class. As I said before, here are the dates. If for some reason you can't meet one of these dates, not a big deal. Just let me know in advance. I'll be more than happy to give you more time. Just let me know in advance. And I mean like a day or 2 in advance. Don't call me at 9:30 on 7/9. Well, first don't call me anyway. I won't answer the phone at 9:30 on 7/9. But don't email me 9:30 and be like, oh yeah, I was sick today. Can I have more time? Well, maybe you send it at like 9 a.m. Hey, I'm not feeling well. I don't think I'm going to get to finish up my module. Maybe. But 9:30 at night, that's not cool. So anyway, just ask if you need more time. Is that all I want to say? I think that's all I want to say about that. All right, so D2L tour. Let's go look around D2L quickly. So within D2L, basically there is the content area, and you can get to pretty much everything you need from there. There's all these learning modules, right? The heart of the learning module will be the podcast. In theory, if you click on this podcast, it'll take you to Campus Pack, and you'll be able to watch the podcasts. I don't think it's going to play on my... Oh, yep, there we go. Well, let me open Chrome. Sorry, I should have done this before. I don't have Flash installed. So, sorry. I should have remembered that beforehand. All right, so let's try it again. Everything's under the content area. Go to the like Module 1 podcast. Open one of the podcasts. Comes up like this. Click play if you want. You can't really make this any bigger, so if you can't see what you need to see in here, then you can click up here to download the podcast. This is actually going to start. It'll start eventually. Oh, I'm not waiting for that. If you let it play, go long enough, it'll eventually start. Or you can download it, save it in whatever format you want. Hey, it's saving as an MP4, and then you can play it locally, put it on your iPad, put it on your iPhone, listen to while you're driving, whatever you want to do. If when you click on the link and you get an error message, then go back to My Home. Come down here, click on this little guy, My Campus Pack. That will open up the Campus Pack app. And apparently, if you have never used Campus Pack, you don't have a Campus Pack user ID yet, but by clicking on that little box there, that will cause it to create the Campus Pack ID for you. So if you can't get to the videos, try this. If that doesn't work, let me know. So let's go back to D2L. So like I said, content is the heart of everything. Learning modules. All right, so syllabus, start here. Click on that. It'll tell you some stuff you need to do, what we're going to do. So about Module 1, you view podcast, complete Module 1 exercises, post to the discussion board, and complete Quiz 1. Those are the 4 things you need to do for Module 1. So if we go back and look at each one of those things, the Module 1 exercises are right here. Module 1 tells you to do some stuff. There are podcasts that show you how to do these things, or here you just type the commands. Hey, type the password command, type the date command, what you should see, what you should do. That's pretty straightforward. Module 1 quiz, right? It's a quiz. You can take the quizzes twice. It will average your scores. So you take it once, then you can look at the answers and take it again to make your score better. Module 1 discussion. A post something discussion board. I don't know where it's at, but yeah, discussion board. So that was a quick tour through D2L. Let's see what else we got on the thing. Final project. I talked about the final project already. The other thing about the final project is the way I will set up the grading is there will be 2 due dates. The final due date is 8/7, right? But I will probably, let's see if I can find a calendar. There will be another due date of probably like, I don't know, August 3rd. If you don't finish it by the first due date, you will only be eligible for like 85% of the points. So 2 due dates. You can consider the first due date the real due date, and then the second due date's like a late due date. But don't worry too much about that right now. If you have questions about that, send me an email. I'll try to explain it better. But yeah, so there's like a due date to get 100% and then a due date to get 85%. So that's that. Tips to be successful. Oops. Tips to be successful. Don't procrastinate. Do not wait till the last minute to do things. Lots of people do it. I do it. Just don't do it. Start early. There are probably at least an hour, if not more, worth of podcast every week. The podcasts tell you exactly what needs to be done. You should be able to, in theory, watch the podcast for the most part and type along as you go. Well, later on when we get to the more hard stuff. Don't skip modules. In some classes, like a history class, if you skip a test or a homework, it's not going to hurt you because the next section of the class, you don't need to necessarily remember, who was the 6th president to worry about the Civil War. That doesn't work for this class. The first 3 modules teach you how to use the system, use commands to move around in the command line environment, how to edit files. The next 3 modules, the scripting modules, you will be putting control logic around those commands that you learn to do certain things. So if you never actually learn the commands, how successful do you think you will be putting control logic around the commands? Probably not very successful. And then we get to the administration portion of the class where you'll be using commands to move around the system and edit files and stop and start services. So if you're not good at editing files and you're not good at using commands to move around the system, then you're going to have a much harder time successfully navigating the system to do those administrative tasks. So just don't skip modules. If for some reason you get behind and don't finish a module, you need to probably at least go back and watch the podcast and try to do the activities. Finally, ask for help if you need it. I hear this all the time from students that they didn't want to bother me or they were afraid to ask or whatever. I'm here to facilitate learning. So if for some reason you don't know how to do something, ask me, post it to the discussion board in class, see if somebody else will answer. I'm more than happy to provide assistance to you in completing these tasks, but you have to ask for help. There are some things we can do if we need if I need to provide you help. First and foremost, I can actually see what you're doing because we're doing the first 6 modules on my system, so I can go look at your files or look at the commands you've run to see what's going on. The administration modules we'll be doing on a virtual system that I control. So if you can't get your service working or whatever, I can actually go onto your system, look at your log files, look at what's going on, your config files, and provide help that way. If I need to connect to your local system to look at something, then we can use TeamViewer for that, perhaps. Or if we need to even meet in the lab, I'm more than happy to come into the Midtown lab periodically if we need to get together to go over something. So, I'm more than ready to provide any assistance you need, but you just have to ask for it. So that's really all I wanted to say. Good luck. Have a good semester. Get started on Module 1.